Alright, welcome ladies and gentlemen to the Intel Extreme Masters San Jose qualifiers. This is the American qualifier Stage 1 Cup 2 to find out which extra 2 players actually move on to stage number 2 and find their way on through as 3 spots from the culmination of these qualifiers get to move on to the Intel Extreme Masters San Jose. I'm Kif1ire alongside Maddles, and we already have our first game here today.
We do. It's going to be Pixel versus, as I bring up the screen quickly, Pixel versus Qualifier. So a nice little ZVP, a best of 3. They're going to be looking to join Massa and Petraeus, who were able to qualify 2 nights ago in the first America's Cup. They're going to be joining Huck, Puck, Major, QXE, Hendrilisk, Violet, Scarlet, and Suppy in Stage 2, as Kif1ire said, to battle it out for one of those 3 spots at Intel Extreme Masters San Jose.
Yeah, we're just waiting for Qualifier to say he's good to go, and then we'll jump into our first series here. We actually did pretty well for ourselves. We had a few technical issues at the beginning, but we're getting the countdown going to start things off at this qualifier. And our last qualifier that we had during this Stage 1 process was very, very interesting. The first couple of rounds were kind of
crazy.
Yeah, weird games, back and forth, really kind of crazy stuff. But Qualifier is pretty well known in the American scene. He's established himself pretty well. He is Grandmasters, and we've seen him trying to compete through, I think he's played in Challenger League over there for WCS. Correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, we can actually jump into our first series of the day, or the night, or evening, whatever you want to call it, because it's kind of late here, as we have spawning down to the bottom right-hand corner. It is Pixel as our red Zerg, and up to the top left, it's our teal Protoss. It is Qualifier.
So, King Sejong Station, a small 2-spawn position map, so they know where each other are. It just tends to be really how they want to play it. A good map for cannon rushing is something that is going to be on Pixel's mind, as of course it's very easy to do. As we've got a pylon on the low ground, could lead into that forge burst and a bit of aggression coming on down. So, basically, Pixel just has to be a little bit aware of that. There's nice spots down the back of the mineral line that are very awkward to deal with, and we did actually see a cannon rush 2 days ago in the first America's Cup. Yeah,
we did. I think it was from Hook and the USA qualifier as well.
Was it Hook and the USA one? It may have been as well.
But overall, you're right about that. And I mean, there's very rigid builds that Protoss like to go for on this map, just in general. There is that cannon rush potential, which Qualifier actually might try and exploit here because it is so good. But then leading on later on into the game, you see a lot of potential for things like +2 blink attacks. They have a lot of power with big heightened gateway production.
There's also some really cool places to go for that, specifically the rocks leading into the natural base. If you can set up some pylons there really nicely, you can get into some really cool things. I cast a game a couple of months ago actually now with Nurchio versus someone. I can't remember who, and the Protoss player just went for a very nice position there and wrecked face a bit.
Well, Pixel's already kind of showing a little bit of respect to Qualifier here by going for spawning pool after seeing this probe moving out. So he was a little bit slower with that. And overall, even just the straight block on that hatchery, making it a little bit harder here for Pixel to really do much about it. 2 probes are going to go down there and start picking away at that. But for now, I think Qualifier is completely fine. You know, he's just making probes behind this. He'll just go into his Nexus and be completely content with the idea that this is going to be way further away. He's even throwing down cannons already. Jeez.
He doesn't want that base to be a thing. Drones are going to get pulled down. It's going to be quite difficult to really stop this. It wastes some mining time. The probe is now killed. These cannons will need to be cancelled. They can't finish up with so many drones working at them. It's just not possible. Yep.
With that probe dying, that's quite handy here for Pixel. But in the end, as I'm showing on screen, as you say, it's that income that really does kind of hurt Pixel here. Overall, Qualifier knew that probably wasn't going to do a huge amount other than force this base down to the bottom left-hand corner, because how are you going to clean up this pylon if you're having to clean up cannons for now? So, yeah, Qualifier's probably feeling completely comfortable with all of this, knowing what was going to happen.
It's just a little bit irritating. It forces the response, and whenever you force your opponent to do something they don't really want to do, it's going to act as a distraction, throw them off the build they maybe had in their head, and just be disruptive. Of course, behind this, Qualifier is just going for very standard stuff. The pylon should easily die. Now there are 2 Zerglings working away at it as well. But Qualifier in a very secure position, and the entire arsenal of the Protoss tech tree lay before him in whatever devious plans he may have.
There's our 3rd base on the way here for Pixel as well behind all of this. As I'm curious to see actually what Qualifier is going to do, because again, coming into these qualifiers, I'm not as knowledgeable of the American scene as I am in regards to the European scene, though I see a lot of. So for me, there's glimpses at these different players. For example, I haven't really seen Pixel play at all. So I'm really interested to see what he's actually going to bring to the table here against Qualifier, who is arguably the favorite in this series.
Liking this wall off. Coming down at the moment, I was just having a nice little peek at it. Does mean the Zella will be able to block that. The pylon actually behind the gas completed, I think. Or does it? No, it might not. Interesting.
This pylon back here, yeah, it blocks everything off. It's really nice.
That's good. Everything nice there. Meanwhile, just a couple of lings checking around. This ling is actually really important because there's so many places you can hide proxy stargates, proxy pylons, just any kind of tech you might want as a Protoss player, which really can lead into a bit of pain. But we've got the +1 coming on through now from Qualifier, so everything nice and good.
Oh, he even alerted him to the fact that his probes weren't mining. That's so cute of Pixel. I like that guy already.
There's still one not doing it. He's a real slacker. Look at him there.
Yeah, that's a bit annoying.
Casually just chilling.
Well, at least Pixel told him, you know. Yeah. That's very nice. I played a game today, actually, and somebody had Marines accidentally rallied over into our bases, and I told him, "You've rallied Marines into my base," and he was like, "No!" But, you know, it's nice to do that because you don't want to win, like unintentionally. You actually want a proper win, right? Like when you're playing a game like StarCraft. So that's kind of cool. I like people that do that.
It's like I didn't understand people who use any exploits or things like that. It's like, what do you gain out of that? You're not getting a proper game from it.
I don't know. Some people like to watch the world burn, man. That's how it goes. Oh, okay. Robo on the way.
This shouldn't be too surprising, really, to Pixel. It's pretty standard. He's going to get it scouted very early. He should do his Overlord, going to catch it. May not actually catch the Robo, but he'll see the gateways and then swing on down there. Yeah,
Mothership Core is going to clear out these Zerglings to deny a little bit of the vision for Pixel, as Qualifier would like to move out, but he already sees these two gateways. If he doesn't, there we go. Swings around, gets that positioning of the Robo facility as well. So Pixel, on the other side of things, should have a good idea of what's really going on. You know, many times Zergs have played from this position, spotted that, and you should look at that 13 drones on the way behind all of this. So really needs to get that drone count up and running before anything nasty would come his way. But the third base is kind of blind at the moment.
I really like this third base because obviously from the scout, Pixel is going to be preparing to deal with anything along the lines of an Immortal Sentry style play, an Immortal Heavy style build there. Without vision of the third though, due to the Mothership Core pushing back those Zerglings, it could catch off guard Pixel, who's already throwing down that Hydralisk, then getting the Roach one. We'll probably see a fair few units pumped out, but of course nothing's coming. The Robotics Bay on its way, so we're going to be going into Colossus, the third base, the Warp Prism, everything going nicely. Plus, Qualifier knows everything thanks to these beautiful hallucinated Phoenix. But boom, clever Zerglings.
Yeah, all in all, I mean, Pixel may have understood completely the fact that the Robo was a little later than the usual kind of like Immortal push play. So he does have to kind of give credit to that and then react to it. That's why the Zerglings came up to the third base, obviously, and spotted that out. So now he has all the room in the world, and he went up to 75 drones during all of this to have a really powerful Roach Hydra army. But obviously, Qualifier was cutting a few corners in terms of his tech to not really harass too much. His Warp Prism is out and about, but at least he has that Robo Bay down nice and quick to be able to deal with the Hydras that are inbound.
The first Colossus is in production now, as is Extended Thermal Lance. Upgrade-wise, we're getting a good advantage here for Qualifier, thanks to getting that Forge nice and early, but it's going to be this Warp Prism that could be a bit of a pain. Some Zealots warping in already, plus that fourth base coming on through. May see that get a little bit of poke and prod, but this is a lot of Speedlings out on the map, actually, Claris. There's 23 of them. Probably going to be trying to deny any kind of harassment, any pylons and such coming on down. Yeah,
playing a Ling Hydra's play at the moment. Not really mixing any Roaches in at all during all of this. So I do like Ling Hydra. It can work out really well. But of course, Colossi, if they do not get shut down during that kind of play, then they are actually going to have the most fun time of their entire lives. So it's important here that Pixel, again, identifies exactly what's going on behind all of this. Let me just check his vision for now.
I'm quite surprised that actually we are getting the Ling Hydra play, because obviously when the robotics facility has been seen, it is quite a risk doing that because the tech into Colossus isn't too hard. But a couple of Zealots getting dropped down. They're going to have the worst time ever, thanks to these Hydralisks and Zerglings.
Yeah.
Could go into the main, but already we see Pixel pulling up his units to deal with it.
It's really good for Pixel because despite the idea of like the Warp Prism being a threat and stuff like that, and despite him actually having to deal with the previous decisions of like what tech do I really go for, this Warp Prism actually just can't linger around at all, anywhere, because of the Hydralisks, because they are, you know, they have the potential of repositioning themselves and shutting all of this down. But behind all of this, of course, Qualifier, that's not his overall arcing strategy, right? he's going to be transitioning on. He should have a powerful army. He's got one Colossus out right now. Second one's on the way. Yep.
A little bit of a supply block, unfortunately. He is trying to rectify that now, but here comes the push out from Pixel. He's got a very sizable army at the moment. There's 27 Hydralisks, 44 Lings. So this is still quite scary, but of course the 2 Colossus are there. The third one isn't quite out yet because of that supply block, which is a little bit annoying, but it's firmly coming on through. Extended Thermal Lance is done. So with all of this, it's going to be quite awkward. Just in the positioning, the Hydras just need to be so careful of the Colossus. So.
Yeah, and look at this. I mean, he just didn't have that many gateway units to complement this, so he was pulling his entire army back, and he's sacrificing his third almost. He has to be very careful about how he takes his engagement. Force fields are going to be important because this army has a lot of power behind it for Pixel, and all of the Zerglings soaking up a lot of the damage at the front, whilst the Hydralisks do the damage at the back. If you could deny +2, that'd be a very nice start, but as long as these 2 Colossi stay alive, the Hydras aren't going to be doing huge amounts.
The Forge not getting focused down. Those 2 Colossus just doing a bit too much damage, really, to allow him to stay in there. Although it would have been nice if that Forge had been focused down, as you said. But look at the rally across the map. Just wave after wave of Ling Hydra. A couple of Roaches being sprinkled into the mix as well to help soak up some of that damage. But all in all, aside from a couple of Sentries and quite a few Zealots getting taken down, that push didn't do that much, in honesty.
Yeah. And what scares me about that is the Protoss on 3 bases here. If it's not going to be broken by Roach Hydra alone, I mean, this army, we all know how much momentum gets taken away from this when there's a multiple Colossi out, extra tech out for the Protoss. And he's even got a Dark Shrine on the way as well to make this harassment extra pointy on the extremities of the bases here for the Zerg. So it's going to be deadly.
The one plus side for Pixel is he was able to take down that Warp Prism. So at the end of the day, Claris, he's got slightly less of a concern there. Those Dark Templar warping in now are going to have a very long walk. I don't think that's on their dating profile. They like long walks in the snow. So yeah, not as optimal as it could be. But of course, behind this, just good pump out of units. If we look at the army supply, it is still in Pixel's favor, but it's so Hydralisk heavy. There's only 22 Roaches. These Colossus really are going to have just a field day. He
has a bit of limited amount of force fields here, so he has to be careful about how he uses them. He could throw one wave down, which would be nice, but look how he slowly waits and makes sure that he can pull it back to a smaller choke point and just throw a few force fields down because he knows he has limited amounts of them. And the thing is, with the Protoss army position now, and extra Stalkers on the way, I'm not so sure this force here by Pixel can actually break this.
He's got the Spire coming on down behind it, but as we see now, these Dark Templar are having just an absolute field day. Slowly swiping away happily. That Spore Crawler couldn't concern them in the slightest, and this is probably going to end up getting that 4th.
Yeah, and that's really going to mean bad news bears here for Pixel, unfortunately, because his entire army, it just gets shut down by this. The 7 Corruptors that are on the way are going to have to contend with the 18 Stalkers shooting at them, and it's going to require some good positioning here by Pixel.
What are your thoughts on Roach Hydra Corruptor compared to Roach Hydra Viper?
Well, technically you can get it out a lot easier because obviously Infestation Pit costs gas and all that kind of shenanigans. So I guess, you know, across these 3 base, if you're really in a rush and you really want to try and take down your opponent, then great. But overall, I mean, even if he'd have gone for Viper, there is the potential with Qualifiers thingy behind that he could have got High Templars.
Got to be a bit careful there. Force Field's being forced just because the Colossus were distracted while the main Stalker force carried on forward. But here come the Corruptors now. Positioning really is going to be key for Pixel. Qualifier, as long as he keeps those Colossus safe at the back, though, he can just continue pushing on through. He's taking a 4th as well behind this.
Yep, Pixel sees this base being taken, so he does know what he's going to be going up against. Storm is on the way, but again, as I said, you know, that's the advantage of having Corruptors. You don't have to deal with any kind of feedbacks. Actually, there's so many Colossi here. If he just micros back the Colossi alone, he should be completely fine, but he's actually leaving them at the front here to the mercy of some of these Roaches as well. They do take a few volleys. The Corruptor's already taken 1 down, but only 1 Colossus with a 2nd one and 3rd now just falling. But there's so much dead already for Pixel that he really has not much left.
That's the problem for him. GG is called, and Qualifier is going to be able to take game number 1 of this best of 3. Just overall playing quite a greedy strategy with that very fast 3rd, and, well, the Colossus count too high.
I think overall the greed for him was fine. Like, I think it worked out completely. He had 3 bases. He saw the timing of the robo facility, went up to 75 drones, and then from there on had a wealth of opportunity to craft a really nice army. But Qualifier likewise, with the robo base so fast and not having his 3rd base exploited in any way, shape, or form, was sitting pretty as well. So Protoss Death Ball can work wonders. I
think one of the big problems actually for Pixel was the fact that Ling Hydra Force that moved up originally could have had a nice, neat little timing, because there were corners cut specifically in gateway production to allow the fast tech and also the fast 3rd. But it didn't really achieve anything. It killed a couple of sentries and quite a few zealots, but if you're a 3-base Protoss, you just go, yeah, I can afford that.
Yeah, I think overall I kind of have to go back to maybe the second engagement. Excuse me. 1 second. Maybe the second engagement that Pixel went for there, and the way Qualifier actually dealt with it, because again, he had limited force fields. If he'd have got himself in a bit of a sticky situation at the front and taken that engagement a little bit earlier, then maybe he wouldn't have had enough force fields to actually shut that all down. But he had the firepower, he had the positional awareness, and from there on he was able to win. So let's get into game number 2 now on Overgrowth, as we have spawning to the bottom left-hand corner. It is our red Zerg. It is Pixel, currently 1 game down. And up to the top right-hand corner, it is our teal Protoss. It is Qualifier. And the winner of this goes up against...
Fog.
Fog, okay.
In the round of 32.
Fog. So I think we may just follow the winner on from this into the next round. That's in the round of 32, you say, sorry?
Yep, it is. Some of the round of 32 games have already started due to an incomplete round of 64 bracket. Nathaniel's playing in that as well.
Yeah, I did want his game so I could cast my fellow caster, but in the end, Base Trade already snagged it, and I am more than happy to allow them to do whatever they want to do. So I do like some Base Trade. So it's nice to see that they're casting alongside us as well. If you're not already tuning into both streams, you should. Obviously here at ESLTV_SC2, and of course over at Base Trade TV, as they provide some fantastic community coverage.
So we've got a gateway opening first, coming on down here from Qualifier. Already mixing things up a little bit. Nothing too crazy, though, which is always nice. In terms of opening, I'm just going to be keeping a massively big eye on how many gases Qualifier gets. If it's just the one on Overgrowth, you got to be a little bit concerned about potentially a lot of zealots trying to run into your 3rd base. If it's the 2 gases, it's just going to be tech coming on through and a pretty normal style play. But note from Pixel, going for the spawning pool first, doesn't want to take any risks here after the attempted cannon rush in game number 1. And I think that's very wise of him.
Yeah, he's actually just kind of heading on down there now with the drone. Probe's going to block for a little while during all of this, but ultimately he could get a few Zerglings out and try and go over the other side of the map after seeing what is at the natural. Try and be a little bit annoying for a while. Oh, didn't actually get the full block off there. So that's a bit annoying for him. Fake the cannon rush. How much income are you going to lose? Not much right now.
Nothing's going to get pulled because the Overlord is seeing the fact there's a pylon on the low ground. So he's just saying, well, there's probably not going to be a forge in the main. There may be, but with the drone just still running around trying to block where anything could go, he's being safe. So not reacting to that, which is always nice from Pixel. Prevents himself losing any mining time there.
Yep. All is good. He sees the natural. He technically will have a little bit of a hard time going into the main base. He can just a little further if he really wants to, but always got to be kind of wary of the idea of a stalker coming out later on and then chasing you down and killing you off.
There are 2 gases as well, by the way, from Qualifier, so that kind of rules out the big zealot 4-gate play that you can often see. So just getting an information on those gases is always nice if you can do it. A couple of Lings may actually be able to sneak on by as we see them leaping and bounding. Lings look so happy when they run, Glarus.
They do, but then unfortunately they have to go up against things like zealots, and then they're not so happy anymore. No. Sad life for some Zerglings.
Speedlings don't look particularly happy when they're running. They just seem a bit too frantic.
Who was it who recently said all Zerglings are twins? And I'm like, you're so right. I can't remember who said it, but...
That is so true.
Yeah.
That is so cute as well.
Yeah. Well, the Zealot fending those guys off. This wall needs to complete at some point, otherwise it could get a bit sticky. But overall, I mean, I like Pixel's opener, man. I mean, this 3rd hatchery on the way, he was, you know, a little bit defensive overall, opening the spawning pool first against somebody who wasn't being able to put really too much pressure on. But in the end, Qualifier is mixing things up.
Yeah, grabbing that Stargate. So kind of 2 main ways you're going to get out of this. You'll either see the Phoenix or the Oracle. Do you have a preference, Claris?
I personally like Phoenix. But, I mean, the Oracle is just as viable. I mean, it can get stuff done at least. You can kill off a few workers. Likewise can Phoenix, of course, but Phoenix gives you the opportunity to push away Overlords, deny them having vision of anything going on, and then you can get a few drones as well if you like.
It's more trickle damage, I find, with Phoenix. If you watch it, even though Oracles in the current meta are used more pokey because people are very good at defending against them now, Phoenix, I consider them to be a lot less of a risk. An Oracle can get taken out, and if it gets taken out before it's killed kind of 8 or so drones, you're a bit like, Whereas Phoenix are just going to keep on coming. They can keep poking in, they keep getting good scouting information, can actually duke it out with Queens and Spores quite nicely. So we'll wait and see if these Phoenix are going to be able to do anything, as that's the choice that Qualifier has taken.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple reasons why I like them as well. It's like the deterrent for Mutalisks later on. It's the ability to maybe even, if you keep them alive long enough, to even get a Viper or two if you find an angle. Again, that's a little bit ambitious, but for me, it's the Mutalisk deterrent, because when I'm playing Protoss, I really don't want to have to play against Mutalisks.
It's not as bad as it used to be. I remember the days where it was just every game you rush Mutalisks as Zerg against Protoss and then laugh hysterically as you win.
Yeah, sure. And your Pulse Crystals helped out quite a bit.
Well, the tech now being seen, 2 Phoenix there, they're going to start working away at these poor Overlords. I always feel bad for Overlords. Like, they mean nobody any harm, ever. They always end up dying. Looks a very painful way to die as well. But yeah, just denying this vision, this is always positive. This would actually be quite a good game for Pixel to go for that Ling Hydra strategy that he used in game number 1, because once you've seen a Stargate, you can instantly deduce, okay, well, there's not a quick Robo, therefore there's not going to be Colossus particularly quick. I might be able to hit a nice timing with Ling Hydra.
Yeah, certainly nowhere near as quick as in game number 1. Kif1ire is kind of accommodating for this idea, of course, and has to, because there is that potential threat. But overall, he has 3 Phoenix out. He's going to have a 4th one out in just a little bit as well. I do like Phoenix even against Hydralisks if you prolong their production and then catch them just as they start popping after the Hydralisk den is finished. So if he continued on with Phoenix production, Kif1ire would make a genuine fan out of me because I love that style, but you know, it's not something people too often use. Nice transfuse.
Yeah, that transfuse is really good. Of course, it takes 4 Phoenix to be able to kill a Queen with 1 lift. There's actually going to be 5, I know, yeah, 5 coming down on the field. It'll be interesting to see if any more are produced after this. It's very rare to get more than 5 Phoenix. But still, doesn't really want to lose that one on very low health. Needs to be a bit careful. So do the Queens, though. Could get lifted. But bang on cue, we've got the Hydralisk Den coming on down, the Robotics Bay coming out for Kif1ire, as well as his 3rd once again.
This is like, watching this game unfold, this one specifically, is kind of like a slightly older meta, you know, of, well, I'm making Phoenix, haha, I'm going to make Hydralisks, haha, I'm going to make Colossi, and then it just keeps going around in that little loop as now 7 and Hydralisks are going to hit the field in just a little bit. Pixel took a small amount of damage over here. Again, as you said before, trickle damage from these Phoenix, just finding some drones here and there and picking them away. One
of the reasons I really love Phoenix is because if they're controlled well, they are ridiculously cost effective.
Yeah, yeah.
He's lost basically nothing other than 1 probe and a cancelled pylon, compared to 8 drones and 4 Overlords. That's actually a decent chunk of damage in the early game, and it's irritating to deal with. It's not as devastating as, say, an Oracle could be, but you just know it's still there. The Phoenix is still on the map. They can still come in and harass. None of the Overlords are granting vision, and that just means that overall Pixel's playing in the dark.
Yeah, exactly. The Phoenix do help out a lot with that, but you don't want to be near those Hydralisks. Thankfully, they're out of Groove Spine, so they didn't get quite as much damage off as they would like to. But overall, Pixel, back up behind all of this, does have 70 workers, so his income's looking good, but unfortunately for him, the Protoss is gathering momentum again. So
he also doesn't know about this 3rd. He's got pretty much no vision. He doesn't know about the timing of the Robotics Bay, doesn't know that there's Colossus coming, anything really. And that's due to the Phoenix just completely obliterating any map vision Pixel would hope to get.
Yeah. There's even quite a few spores here, more than I was expecting from the reaction. So you know, maybe you see a lot of people just going for 1 spore, but I mean, in the mineral lines, but these are spores on the outer edges of these hatcheries and not really covering the drones as much as they would like. So Pixel is taking small increments of damage that he shouldn't necessarily be doing.
And of course, this just starts picking on through. Oh, some Hydralisks. Are you trying to be clever, Hydras? You wanted to get some Phoenix. Not going to. Yeah, this is looking very, very nice. The Spire finishing up for Pixel now, so we should be seeing some Corruptors come on out. just to help deal with the Phoenix and also help deal with the fact that there are Colossus probably out on the field, so that's very nice. It can transition nicely into Corruptor Phoenix composition, Corruptor Mutalisk composition, which are incredibly irritating to deal with.
He's actually moving out into the middle of the map though. If he catches this army, if he actually throws down some force fields and gets all these Hydra, oh well, this is not looking good because he can just pursue.
Yep. Couple of lifts available on these Phoenix as well. That just guarantees a couple more Hydralisks dying. May end up losing a few Phoenix, but that's an acceptable loss if it means that you catch some more Hydralisks. Because if we look at the army supply at the moment, there really isn't too much on the field for Pixel. He's only got those 15 Hydras and 8 Links. Sure, there's 4 Corruptors, but it's only 4 Corruptors. The Stalkers can quickly focus them down. This is a lot of momentum now for Qualifier.
Yeah, especially if he gets into this position at the third base where you throw down some force fields between the hatchery and this little ledge. But he doesn't really have too many available to him, so has to recall out. The one main thing that he didn't have there was Blink for Stalkers, so yes, maybe he could have shot down some of those Corruptors, but they would have been not in the most opportunistic position, and gets on out of there, assuming that the Swarm would have just overwhelmed him.
And again, it's maybe not critical damage, but Qualifier, he is a game up. The pressure's really on Pixel, and he did guaranteed damage. He didn't take really many losses overall there, only losing the 5 Phoenix, which would have lost utility once the Corruptors are out anyway, but was able to deal a decent chunk of damage to Pixel. So Qualifier overall just in a nice spot, this Void Ray being rather brave.
Too brave. Oh, that was sad. That was sad for Void Ray, but overall, there's going to be extra Stargates on the way, which is kind of cool. I do like extra Stargates. So if he's just going to go for extra Void Rays in this army, with +1 weapons as well, mind you, on those flyers, it can work out. It really can against the Corruptor numbers. It depends, though, what you lead with, because you certainly don't want them flying over those Hydralisks and instantly ripping them out of the sky.
You definitely do not. That is very scary times. So, +1 air weapons is also coming on through here for Qualifier. He's doing a good job scouting, just continually keeping a good check on what's happening. Note as well, because of the lovely use of the Phoenix, just getting some good map control, the creep spread for Pixel isn't fantastic. He's not really pushing that too far out, which is a bit of a pain, but I'd say this is when Qualifier is actually the most vulnerable, before he's got a decent number of Void Rays out, and while the Zerg player is maxed and pushing on forward.
Yeah, this is a really strong force here. This is his window, though, really. Anything other than this is going to be a little bit difficult, because, again, Protoss is gathering a lot of pace behind this. Hitting this third base now, trying to chip away at it, but
Blink is still not done as well. That's really important to know for Qualifier. It makes it quite difficult for him to try and take these engages up against the Corruptors. Has to be very cautious, using a bit of SimCity to try and deal with this, but already we see those Corruptors going to town, but the Void Rays quickly dealing with them.
And it just wasn't enough. He didn't really deal with the Colossi. The Void Rays did what they needed to do, and now Protoss Force has got Storm on the way as well. Oh, geez. There's a few more Corruptors coming out, but
there wasn't enough Corruptors in that army. That was the problem. There was only 8 Corruptors actually there. 2 more were on the field, but they weren't over there. And that meant that there was 8 Corruptors up against 3 Void Rays and 19 Stalkers. And oh no, 2 more Corruptors being donated.
Not very good. Really not good at the same time. Big warping on this right-hand side. Oh my god, those Dark Templar. Oh wow. So, Qualifier really looking to put the nail in the coffin pretty quick. His army supply is dead even. His worker supply is higher. Taking this fight, if he just throws down some force fields and cuts some of this off, this is going to be brilliant.
He only has like 1 sentry, so that's a bit of a problem for him. Force fields are limited. The Void Rays, where are the Void Rays? There's only 1 remaining. This isn't actually going ideally. Obviously, the ground army is taken down. The Corruptors should be able to clean some of this. But if we look on the right-hand side, the 4th base has been taken out by the Dark Templar along with this. The 3rd is now getting assaulted too. And so, even though the army has been taken out and the obviously Colossi die, there's nothing really to defend this 3rd for Pixel.
Yeah, he's just doing so much damage. So much damage. Even the Corruptors can't do anything. They're dead weight. These Dark Templars aren't even seen right now for the most part. And unfortunately, his entire economy has just gone down the drain, has Pixels.
It's only 50 drones on 3 bases. And there's the 3-base Protoss. So sure, a lot of army was lost there for Qualifier. But Pixel, he's lost a lot more. He tried to get the Spire as well. If he got that, that would have been devastating.
Well, he's going to reinforce this 4th base, take it behind all of this, and be completely hunky-dory, because overall, his tech is good. His upgrades are going to be pretty good pretty soon with +3 weapons. There's still this parallel on the right-hand side, and The income tab is not looking too healthy for our poor Zergy.
I'm glad you mentioned the upgrades as well, Claris, because Pixel, he has got the +2 missile attack and +1 melee, but no armor upgrades, whereas Qualifier sitting at 2-1, shortly going to be 3-1 upgrades, which just gives him a much, much stronger force. Plus, he's got that 4th base coming on through that's going to finish actually before the 4th of Pixel. What does Pixel do here?
Somehow take a brilliant engagement. I don't even know it's going to happen because right now he has to have answers to Storm, Colossus, Blink Stalkers, all with +3 weapons, and the Corruptors somehow need to get on top of the Colossi, but they're just going to get stormed instantly. So,
and he needs to stop this DT harass. Again, coming in. Oh no, the Spire, the Spire, the Spire!
Oh, really nicely done.
Yep. And that picked off a couple more workers as well, but getting the Spire was the big money play. And yeah, as you said, Pixel, he's got to get down a lot more units, but he's not really got much of an economy. His Spire is now dead, so that leaves him with only 7 Corruptors, which isn't ideal. But more importantly, while he's doing all that off of 3 bases, he's also got to try and pump out a couple more drones, because he's only at 46.
Yeah, it's looking desperate times, because overall, Protoss, from the damage he did, he just says, well, I know you are in a terrible position right now. I can just go sit home, make a lovely little army, and eventually just push out. Even this Stalker movement out here is just looking for free little units on the edge because, of course, he does have Blink and can get out of there whenever he likes. Overall, though, this movement this far is quite ambitious.
It's brave. Blink is powerful, but it's...
There we go. He's losing a few Stalkers, but, I mean, the reinforcing army coming along with this, with the fact that he has that many Storms.
Unless he's trying to bait this army to actually take an engagement here.
And those Corruptors are already going in, but unfortunately, they're probably only going to get 1 Colossus. The Storm will rip them apart, the Blink Stalkers will rip them apart, and then from there on out, this ground army has absolutely no chance of really being able to do anything. Too much power. GG.
It was quite a nice move there by Pixel. He was, by moving those Stalkers out, encouraged... by Qualifier, encouraging Pixel to chase down those Stalkers straight into those Colossus, straight into the Storms, and then suddenly you've melted.
Pretty cut and dry in the end. Qualifier moving on. Going to play against Fog next, which means I believe that's going to be our next series. Don't hold us to that, as these bracket things are always very interesting to work out. But for now, guys, we're going to go to a short commercial break, and then when we're back, we're going to have more StarCraft action from the Intel Extreme Masters San Jose Qualifiers.